Tammy Bruce is host of The Tammy Bruce Show, which you can hear at TammyBruce.com. She's also a Fox News contributor and was looking hot on O'Reilly tonight. Tammy Bruce, good evening.
Well, thank you, Johnny, for inviting me again. I really appreciate it. I mean, it's been a crazy few days here.
All right, let's talk about this because they're laying the blame for the shooting. When I say they, I'm talking about the sheriff. I'm talking about NBC News. I'm talking about the New York Times. They're blaming conservatives. They're blaming Sarah Palin. They're blaming Sharon Angle. They're blaming talk radio. They're blaming people like you and me for this. But there's one important fact that they're leaving out. There's a cause and effect. When Hassan shot all those people at Fort Hood, he said, I'm doing this because I'm a Muslim and this is what Allah wants me to do. Cause, effect. He thinks Allah wants him to kill people, so he kills people. This guy appears to be a paranoid schizophrenic who had an obsession with Congresswoman Giffords going back to 2007, before Sarah Palin was on the national scene, before Sharon Angle was ever nominated for any political office or for the U.S. Senate, in the state of Nevada, before the health care debate, before Arizona Law 1070, before any of that. That's when his obsession with her started. Yet that's being left out of many of the stories when they're talking about this, and they are slandering people like Sarah Palin and Sharon Angle and talk radio and Fox News, and they're doing so without any evidence at all. Are you seeing the same thing I'm saying?
You know, there was a decision, and it seemed like it was in place for a horrible tragedy like this. They jumped into it immediately on Saturday. Literally, I think, having come from the left, I can tell you, it's meant to define the narrative right away, regardless of the facts, because of course, the ends justifies the means. Facts don't have to matter here. And so what they did and what they're committed to, now there was a few hours of silence from the left on Saturday when this idea that he was going to be a conservative Tea Party, or, because of all the violence associated with the Tea Party, when that didn't really manifest, they took a couple hours and decided their new approach would be the horrible rhetoric and the inflammatory rhetoric. And you notice that everyone is playing their role in this, including that sheriff. So, the good news is that even today, you've got Bob Beckel on Fox, Barbara Walters. There's a lot of people on the left in the media saying that this isn't right. And in the Beckel and Walters case, saying that defending Sarah Palin.
In fact, we have the sound of Barbara Walters. Let's go ahead and listen to Barbara Walters on Sarah Palin.
Great.
She tweeted at one point, conservatives and so on. She said, don't retreat, instead reload. I'm feeling bad for Sarah Palin. I don't think that's what you should have said, and certainly crosshairs are very scary. This is a deranged young man. This is a Timothy McVeigh. Whether this happened because there is, too much commentary, too much violence, as you say, we've talked about. Sometimes we do it here. We get so angry. Whether that really spurred him on or whether he's just a very sick person, we don't know, and we don't know what his motives are. And we can hope that all the vitriol calms down. But to blame Sarah Palin, as some are doing, I think is very unfair to her. She issued a statement offering her condolences and hasn't said more. But I don't think this is the time now to start finding, other targets to blame.
And Tammy, the Democratic Leadership Committee in 2004 featured 9 bullseyes over regions where Republican candidates were considered vulnerable that year, and was accompanied by a caption reading, quote, targeting strategy. A smaller caption beneath the bullseyes read, behind enemy lines. The map illustrated an article on campaign strategy by Will Marshall of the Progressive Policy Institute, and the Daily Cause did the same thing with Gabrielle Giffords.
Wait, I have to tell you, though, and I said this for the 10 seconds I had on O'Reilly, is that everybody knows that this isn't about a map. It's not about targets. It's not about that at all. This was an opportunity. These are people who are seeing death and destruction as an opportunity to go after a political enemy. And they'll make up whatever they need to make up. But addressing the minutia of the supposed maps and the targets, which I know is what everyone's been doing, but the point is, we know that this guy is not political, that none of this was relevant. Finally, stories are coming out about who this guy is, so that entire narrative is collapsing. And they're desperate to have us continue talk about rhetoric because you know what the next thing is, Johnny? It's going to be legislation about speech and about guns.
Oh, yeah. You can tell that's coming.
That's the goal.
Sure.
And trying to destroy Sarah Palin.
But I'm shocked that they're willing to go that route because they all do it. Everyone does it. We use military terminology. We use sports terminology when we're talking about politics. That's what we do. They thought with control of the media, they still don't understand that they no longer control the entire dialogue. They thought they could just run this through. And when I was on the left, there was a trust that conservatives could be intimidated into surrendering and that everything was too ugly. Well, here's the difference of what liberals don't understand now, is that while what they're doing is ugly, is that this nation, for conservatives, is too important to abandon in the name of comfort. And that's what they have not considered. And somebody like Sarah Palin, it would work if I think the target was a less distinctive individual. And she, of all people, Johnny, in the midst of a virtual political assassination, as they're trying to, as they scream about lowering the volume, as they, accuse innocent people of murder, Sarah Palin is surviving a attempted political assassination with the dignity and resilience and restraint that nobody else is, and I think that says volume. Well, here's what it is, Tammy. We're talking to Tammy Bruce of the Tammy Bruce Show, which you can listen to online at tammybruce.com. You can also watch her on the Fox News channel. They're all of a sudden interested in lowering the volume of the political discourse because they're losing. When George W. Bush was president, they referred to him as a Nazi. Keith Olbermann, at some website, I think it was Hot Air, just went through and looked and went through all the Nazi references that Keith Olbermann has made over the years, and they're numerous. They made a movie about the assassination of George W. Bush, about the actual killing of a United States president. It wasn't just some random generic president either. It was George W. Bush, and it was them killing him, and this was porn for them. They just absolutely loved it. They did all this for 8 years when he was in office. Then all of a sudden, when Barack Obama's president and the country decides that we don't like the direction where we're going, and they lose a midterm election and they get shellacked, to use their terminology, now all of a sudden we have to tone down the volume because they just don't like the fact that they keep losing elections.
Or, Johnny, so many people are listening to your show, they want people to literally turn down the volume because you're permeating neighborhoods everywhere. I mean, that's one of maybe the new things. But, you're
that's
right.
Not the truth.
This is why it is just rankly absurd, but also going into the grotesque. It's ghoulish what's going on now. And, Obama's going to Tucson on Wednesday for an event.
Sure.
This is, what could go wrong, Johnny, with Barack Obama going to an event with all those people who have been blaming everybody except the crazy guy that shot everyone?
Well, it's like Groundhog's Day, because if you look back at Clinton won the 92 election, kind of an unknown, a guy who wasn't on the national scene for a while, then got his teeth kicked in during the midterm elections, and then there was the Oklahoma City bombing where he bounced back and he exploited it for political advantage. And it looks like Barack Obama is going to use the same playbook.
Yeah, I'm thinking that he should subcontract Bill Clinton out to Tucson because he's already had the experience of being. He can
bite the lip.
Yeah, this is a man on Saturday night when we were all horrified. Barack Obama did his 2-minute speech and then went to watch a football game at Valerie Jarrett's. This is how he responded to mass murder. Look, he is not Bill Clinton. I think Bill Clinton really meant what he said at the Mora Federal Building in Oklahoma City. And I do think also it was political, but I think he meant it. Barack Obama does not have a caring bone in his body. I am convinced of that. This is a guy who did not think it was worth going to Arizona for a murdered Border Patrol agent, and yet is going there for, just the crassness of an event. An event? Go to some of the candlelight vigils. But this is set up when Obama noted that he'd get there, and they need an event because they do. You're right. It's Groundhog Day.
All right.
They want to replay Clinton in Oklahoma.
Let me play you some sound of Jim Clyburn, who is the third-ranking Democrat in the House of Representatives.
Okay, go ahead.
And I'll get you to respond to it.
Maybe we can't put a direct link between this young man and what some of the rhetoric may have been. But right next door, when you see a senatorial campaign taking place and someone saying, if we can't get what we want at the ballot box, maybe we can seek Second Amendment remedies, what does that mean? I think that we really ought to take stock of what's going on. All of this stuff about delegitimizing the President of the United States, that is uncalled for. And all the stuff taking place in the chambers the other day when the Constitution was being read, all that stuff is uncalled for. They're hanging over the banister that some members did last year, egging on the demonstrators out there. That stuff is uncalled for. We ought to conduct ourselves in public office in the way we teach our children to conduct themselves when they go out into the public.
Tammy Bruce, what do you make of that?
That's funny. Suddenly they care about decorum. I mean, isn't that... I don't recall one peep out of these people when we had the effigy of Sarah Palin being hung by the neck in West Hollywood. And this is not a tit-for-tat situation, but these are the most exploitive people in the world. People are still fighting for their lives. We're thrilled Representative Giffords was able to do a thumbs up today in the hospital. It is about the power of prayer. And these exploitive, it's become a cult of death where who are you when you can only rally your base on the backs of the injured, of injured innocents. I mean, this is shocking. And here's the thing, Johnny. Everybody knows it's BS. Everybody knows it, and they are waiting, I have to tell you. They're waiting for a voice of reason, and it's not Barack Obama, it's Sarah Palin. And I'm hoping we'll hear more from her this week.
Do you have any idea when we're going to hear from her?
I trust her instinct. What you've seen happen over the last 2 years is a natural leader. This is a woman who's weathered every storm, everything thrown at her with dignity and style and grace. And I don't doubt that she's going to handle this in the same way. And I just say, they can bring it on. They can expose and how dare they put us in this position at this stage. But you know what? It's on our plate now, and conservatives are not going to back down. And because what's going on is just too horrible. And I think standing up for dignity is also standing up for actual justice, so we can get this guy, that sheriff guy, has been giving defense attorneys their lines. I mean, you've got a sheriff saying it's everyone's fault, but his effectively. And so I think that we'll hear from Sarah Palin when she thinks it's appropriate. And I think that the restraint she's issued to this point has also been appropriate, but I'm looking forward to when she responds.
Yeah, I am too, because she's being slandered by a lot of people, including the sheriff out there. And one thing that's good, Tammy, one great Arizona law that I'm very thankful for is that if you are declared to be insane, you're convicted of a crime and you're insane, you go to a mental institution. But when the doctors at the mental institution determine that you're sane, you don't get let out like you do in California. You go to an actual prison. So this guy is going to be in prison for the rest of his life.
You don't just go to you don't get assigned to the Democrat national leadership.
Only if you run for office.
I see. That's right. Yeah, but no, that's look, Arizona is, and Jan Brewer did something today too. She carried on business as usual, in honor and respect of the victims. This is unlike the House of Representatives, which shuts down for an entire week. For them, of course, it's only 2 days. But, really, this is interesting choices that people are making. And I think the state of Arizona, this is about liberals punishing Arizona. I mean, they've doubled down here, the lib-progs, as I call them, is they're blaming everyone in Arizona. It's about racism.
Right. Well, they were calling them Nazis before.
Yeah, and of course, punishment of Sarah Palin, but not her. She's being used as a proxy to punish the Americans, every one of us, that sent a message in the midterms. But they did this on the back of mass murder.
Yeah, no, it's really crass.
For that.
All right, Tammy Bruce, I'm late for a break here. Thanks so much for joining us. And people can listen to you tomorrow, TammyBruce.com. And you were on the O'Reilly Factor tonight, which is going to be replayed later on. So check that out as well.
Thank you, Johnny. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, dear.
Okay, thanks so much.